Yo, thank you for clicking on the video. I'm Who's Mans. I just like football. I'm here to teach you the X's and O's of the game. I'm not here to teach you the glitches and the exploits and things like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you guys are new, go ahead, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you never miss an upload. And let's get into it. All right, so before we get into the actual formations, I think you got to understand personnel. Something that I realize a lot when playing online is that some people don't really understand personnel from either an offensive perspective or a defensive perspective. More so on defense, I would say. Just to kind of go over some of the basics, we have 11 personnel, which is one running back, one tight end. 32 personnel, which is your 3 running backs and 2 tight ends. You're also going to have your 23 personnel, 2 running back, 3 tight ends. It's important to understand who you have, your strengths and weaknesses first on offense, to figure out, okay, well, what kind of personnel groupings do I want to use? Depending on your, offensive philosophy, it's going to help you determine how much you're going to be using of certain personnel groupings, when you want to, go from an 11 personnel to maybe a 21 personnel or maybe a 12 personnel. So these things change, but understanding where you're strong and where you're weak, and where you are on the field and the time of possession and what your opponent likes to do, things like that, it definitely helps you figure out, okay, how do I get my best players in the best situations, right? So I want to start this off with speed is very important, but speed is not everything, especially in college football and Madden. I've noticed that a lot of people tend to value speed way more than everything else, and then they get in situations where that speed does not help. Okay, so definitely pay attention to all these stats that your players have. So you may have a slower wide receiver who has amazing route running. You may have a slower running back who is a good bruiser and is going to break a lot of tackles. You may have that slower tight end who is better in the block scheme. Okay, so pay attention to that. That will help you figure out what formations and what person, I guess, you should use in your personnel. Something else that I think you'd also need to pay attention to is what personnel is in those formations. So I showed a clip of gun empty base, and then you're gonna see bunch wide. Same personnel, different formation. You got to pay attention to the down and distance. You got to pay attention to what your opponent is doing. It's easier in a dynasty because you'll be able to scout. You'll be able to scout your opponent a little bit better, so you'll understand the tendencies. If they come out in empty, do they audible down? What kind of routes do they run? What are the guards doing? Things like that. But in games like this, for instance, some people will just see pistol and think, okay, well, pistol, they're going to be throwing this ball. However, you can already see they're coming out in a 22 personnel. They only have 1 wide receiver. I need to come out on my base defense. It's not always going to be the case that your opponent is throwing the ball every single play. You're going to encounter people who like to run the ball. You're going to encounter people who like to spread the ball out and run, which is something similar to like a power spread. But I've shown previous videos where I've used the Chargers in a 13 personnel from gun, and my opponent kept seeing gun and would come out in dime. So I just ran the hurry up and ran duo over and over and over because I understood that he has too many light bodies in the box. I'm just going to run the ball until he decides to call a timeout or just lets me score. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. It'll be easier to really go over what formations maybe to come out in on defense, or what to use on offense to get the most out of your players. And I'll talk about how to do this with slower players as well. It'll be easier to do that when I have game clips, because just speaking about personnel in general, it is what it is. But I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that personnel is pretty important. It's not always about speed. It's not always about height. Sometimes you have to look at the little details for a lot of these players. So next few videos are going to be focused on 2x2 and then I'll have a series for the 3x1, 4x1 offense and defense, and we'll go from there. So thank you for watching. If you have any prayer requests, throw them in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.